Jimmy Camastro, aka Jimmy C.
That's right.
How are you, man?
I'm awesome.
Good to see you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Yeah.
You know, you're a very talented guy, and I've been interested in having you on this show for quite some time.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're a great musician. In fact, you play multiple instruments, don't you?
I play just about whatever I have to.
I mean, I've seen you play guitar, obviously bass. Can you play drums as well?
I've played drums in the band, more four on the floor type person. Muscle memory. I probably have to really rehearse to play, but I can program the shit out of a drum machine.
Well, you're not only a musician, but you're a producer.
Right.
So you actually produce music. You have a recording studio in your house.
Right.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
So you actually record people here locally in Sarasota.
I do. I generally record people that seek me out rather than just people off the street. And the reason being, when you record people off the street, if they're not very talented, and no matter what you do, they're not going to sound very good. You don't have the heart to tell them, so you try to record them. And if they don't sound good, and everybody else says they don't sound good, they say, "Well, it's the recording studio. I recorded that." So I learned when I had my studio in New York, I learned record people that seek you out for what you can do for them.
And do you record actual complete like albums?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I just finished a CD. Actually, it's a trumpet and pipe organ CD.
Interesting.
Baroque music.
So I think of you as a rock and roll guy because you have a local rock and roll band here called the Cabana Dogs.
Right.
And it's interesting because you call yourself trop rock. And I was wondering if you can explain what trop rock is.
All right, so I don't actually call myself trop rock. People have called us trop rock because the songs that I write, as of late, as of being here in Florida, I write about coming to Florida, about moving to the sunshine and hanging out at the beach. And I was on tour on the cruise ships for a while, so I wrote about the islands. That's what I write about. So it ends up being trop rock, and I started playing for the trop rock people locally in Tampa Bay, Parrot Heads, and did music on the Bay 10 years. You know, doing the trop rock stuff. But I'm just a musician. I just do rock.
So for those who haven't seen you perform yet, I could tell the audience that you play a variety of great rock and roll. So you'll play 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s.
Right.
Your set list is extremely diverse, which I think personally is fantastic.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Our set list is we try not to fall under a genre, and most people are very binary. It's either left or right. It's either you're this or that. That's how people are. I'm not. I think that we just play music. So whenever we play a country song or a rock song or a funk song, we still do it with our flavor. We don't like listen to the CD and say, well, that's what they do. That's what we're going to do, because that's like listening to the radio. So
but at the same time, you're very entertaining in the sense that you're playing songs that getting people to dance. Like when I saw you at the Drift Inn, you had a full packed house. People were finding spaces to dance because it's so tiny there. So they're just trying to find a place to groove. And every song you're playing is a hit after hit after hit.
Yeah, we got it. My view, again, just one person's point of view. My view is play songs that people know, and if they don't know it, make it entertaining enough where they'd say, "Wow, I love that song." So yeah, we love people to sing along. My drummer calls ourselves a people's band. What genre are you? We're a people's band because we talk to the audience.
You're true. That's very true.
We get them up. There's no ego. If people sing, people play guitar. It's not a competition. We have them come up, play a song.
It's nonstop entertainment for that. What are you doing? Like an hour set? It's
an hour and 15 minutes,
15, yeah.
Hour and a half sometimes, depending on the crowd. If the crowd's up, we can roll into a bunch of songs. And
sometimes you actually will play songs on the fly. Like one time I saw you guys, and I think you played a song for the very first time without even rehearsing it, and you obviously nailed it.
Well, you know what? I would say a good 60% of our set list are songs that we've played on the fly. And sometimes we play them and it's a train wreck, but we laugh at ourselves and we laugh at the audience. They laugh at us and we move on.
Sure.
So,
sure. Could you tell us your current band members?
Current band members, Julia Brown is one of our singers, the girl singer in the band. Sean McCord is the drummer, also singer. Myself, play lead guitar and sing. And Willie D is the bass player. And he's starting to sing now. Willie Dre. Yeah. He's starting to sing now too.
Yeah.
So yeah, our band is not a male-led or a female-led band. We're just a band. We all sing. We all sing harmony, but we all play.
You always have a female component, and there's several different versions of Cabana Dogs that I've seen always has a female component to it.
Yeah, I love having the diversity of different voices, and it's always good to have a female voice. I back to Twinkle, I I used to have Twinkle come to my studio and sing so I can work out songs that I've written. I love the female voice. I used to live with a girl in New York and wrote songs for her. So I always like that female component. And then when I have male-led vocals, I like to have that female vocal, singing a harmony or behind us. So it's just a good mix.
So speaking of Twinkle, Twinkle's pretty much a legend here in the marketplace. There's no doubt. Her and her band Rock Soul Radio is the reason why I put a band together when I first moved here, because I saw them and I was so entertained and moved that I was like, I want to get a band, So I credit Twinkle and Rock Soul Radio for the birth of Jacked Up.
Cool.
And you've worked with Twinkle. So tell us about some of the collaborations you've done with her over the years.
It's more of a friendship. We became friends. And I was just telling you before, how'd you meet Twinkle? People say Twinkle, so kudos to Twinkle. I took my son to see Aerosmith at the St. Pete Times Forum, and I really wanted to see Lenny Kravitz because I've never seen Lenny Kravitz, saw Aerosmith a million times. So we had VIP tickets, so we're there intermingling with everybody, and I see Steven Tyler talking to this long-haired chick with a big long jacket on, and thought it was cool, whatever. So we go out, we're in the front pit, where the VIP section is. We got our little drink, and we're like, oh, cool, we're here, we're going to see everybody. And Steven Tyler walks out with Twinkle, holding her hand. I didn't know who she was. And honestly, my wife said, what the fuck is a Twinkle? I don't know, because we never heard it.
It's a great name because it's so unique, right?
Well, it's just you have to, what's a Twinkle? So anyways, Steven Tyler comes out and goes, hey, everybody, it's me, Steven Tyler. Like, yeah, no shit, Sherlock. So this is a local artist, Twinkle from Sarasota, and she's gonna sing for you because Lenny Kravitz is sick and couldn't make it. We were pissed. We were pissed.
Wow.
So, and I'm like, all right, I've been around the music business. I've done a bunch of stuff, and my wife worked for a record company. So we've been around the block. We're like, okay, I don't need to see a local artist. I don't want to hear a local artist warming up Aerosmith. So anyway, Twinkle goes, hey, she sits down at the grand piano and she starts belting out a bunch of Aretha Franklin
By herself?
By herself.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
And what is it, like 20,000 people sitting there right now?
Well, people are still filtering in, but she caught everybody's attention, caught my attention. I was like, holy shit, I definitely got to meet this lady.
So what was it that caught your attention? Like, was it just her unique sounding voice?
Well, she was
the whole package.
She was the whole package. She was very good. She was bold enough to get out there and play piano and sing and warm up Aerosmith. I mean, that's bold enough. And she was good.
Without a doubt.
She was, my expectations was this is a local artist. And local artists generally, doesn't matter whether it's here in Florida, New York, anywhere else, there's a lot of great musicians, but there's a lot of not great musicians. There's a lot of great musicians that suck because they can't entertain. There's a lot of musicians that are mediocre that can entertain. You know what I mean? I wanted to see everything. I want to see the entertainment and the music. And I didn't come to see a local artist. And she was definitely not. She didn't play like a local artist. She played like a superstar. So,
and then you guys obviously became friends from that point on.
Well, yeah. Well, I think Tony brought her to the studio to do a
Tony, her brother.
Yeah,
bass player
to do a commercial, a voiceover, and then we got to talk and we became friends, and then we started doing some interviews with people, and I would have her sing songs that I wrote because she's a professional. You can say, okay, this is the melody, this is how it goes. Go in and sing it. Right. And she would sing it, and then she'd sing 23 different harmonies and pieces, and I would, perfect voice.
So I recently downloaded some of their original records because they're on Apple, and I have some of their stuff now on my device, and I love some of their original stuff. It's fantastic.
Oh, I love their stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's one song that I love in particular.
Sanctuary?
No, I think it's called Big Red. I think it's called Big Red. No, something Picker. Anyway.
It's funny. In one of the early days of Jacked Up, we had a chance to open up for them at one of the seafood festivals. And the guitar player who I've become friends with, Lenny, is
Lenny
Brooks Jr. Yeah, he's actually going to be on the show in August. He came up at the end of our set and said, hey, you guys did a great job. And he was sincere, and it felt great with somebody that's established as him to say, hey, you guys did a good job.
He's a very nice guy.
Yeah.
He's not ego driven. He's
totally
just a great musician.
Sweetheart.
Yeah.
So now now you're a local musician here as well. I mean, you produce here.
I've made it to local.
Right.
Yes.
So you moved here. We're going to talk a little bit about, growing up in New York.
Right.
You and I have a lot of similarity there in that we grew up in the same parts of town and knew some people. So you came to Florida. You quickly established yourself here as a musician, right? And
I didn't quickly do that, but yeah.
But then you had the producing facility, right, at your home.
Yeah.
So you started recording.
Right.
So that became a business for you here.
Well, I had that business in New York.
Right.
I had a studio in New York. My wife worked for a record company. Um, I was coming out of actually, I was a stationary fireman in the Bronx.
No kidding.
And I did that, yeah. So my hair was shorter. I was allowed to have a little bit of hair because my job was the fire code for a city block for the Board of Education. That's what I did. And I had a lot of extra time, and I was a musician anyway. I had been in bands. I've done big stiff stuff before that. So while I was doing that, I was building a recording studio, and I was doing that because I had a lot of time off. So I did both, kind of.
So this is a great segue to talk about your younger days. So what city were you born in?
The Bronx.
You're
New
born in the
York.
Bronx. Okay, great. And then you went to high school there.
Just north of the Bronx, in a suburb of New York.
Yeah, because I was from New Rochelle, so I'm familiar with Pelham and Mount Vernon and the North Bronx.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah,
that whole area there.
yeah. So I after high school and everything, I instead of going to college, of course, I played in a band and did all that stuff. But I lived in I ended up living. I can't go through my whole story, but I ended up living in Harrison,
Harrison, I know it well.
and right next to
Sure.
Mamaroneck.
Yeah, yeah.
And right near Acme Studios, Acme Recording Studios, where the Spin Doctors recorded. And I had one of their piccolo snares that given to me, and I think I got rid of it eventually. But yeah, so cool area.
So you lived and worked in Harrison, and then you started getting producing people there.
Yeah, well, I was in Harrison. I mean, before that, I had a recording studio in Mount Kisco, New York, and Mount Kisco was great because I met so many big people, and I say big people because people like to hear big people, but to me they're all just people. Became friends with Christopher Reeves. I had some of my talent do his parties. Well, he was in a wheelchair, and recently he passed a bunch of years ago, and his wife passed too. Christopher Reeves. He played
I know of him.
Superman.
Yeah, sure.
He played Superman,
Of course, yeah.
and then he
Tragic accident.
yeah. So while I was in a wheelchair, part of his staff would come to the studio and record. They used to hang out because there's a deli upstairs in my big studio. So they would come downstairs when they hear the music, and then I became friends with them and then started doing his parties.
So you must have met a lot of really fun and famous people in your
Yeah.
day.
Not
No
all
doubt.
fun, but yeah.
Not all fun.
A lot of famous people, but yeah.
But people actually came in to use your facility,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah.
you would actually go see other bands. I'm sure being in New York, I know that I went down the train a lot, and I would go into Manhattan, and I would see some of the greatest bands, whether it was at the Garden or maybe down in the Village, right?
Yeah.
It was an epicenter of really good music.
It's an epicenter of just entertainment. I mean, just people, and you you'll walk down the street and meet famous people, and you don't even know you're talking to them because they're everywhere. It's not like this halo walks around their head, and they walk down the street and go, oh my God, there's so and so. There's normal people. So I used to. I had a partner, Jay Judell, his name is. If you look him up, he was one of the first engineers on Sesame Street. He was an older guy, great guy, full of knowledge. Learned so much from him. I used to go down to CBS because he worked at the CBS morning show, and I used to watch him as the show was produced. And a few times I went down to help him, move things around while I was setting up for the Moody Blues or Bette Midler or whoever would come in. Harry Connick Jr. I remember being there and just watching these famous people do normal stuff because they're just normal people.
So yeah, you're immune to the starstruck situation.
Yeah, I'm not starstruck at all. I'm not starstruck at all. I was starstruck when I met Keith Richards the first time, but just for a moment, and he made me feel comfortable immediately.
Sure.
So
Now,
starstruck just goes out the window.
You and I had the opportunity to have a few drinks a while back, and you told me some of these stories. And we're not going to get into all of them because there's a lot of really good ones. But meeting Keith Richards had to have been pretty much one of the highlights. I mean, at least if it was me, I mean, to me, he's a rock god, right? And to meet him and have a conversation like you did, that must have been just like, what was going through your mind when you first met him?
Well, oddly enough, at the time, I was coming out of being a stationary fireman, so I was doing music at the same time. Um, I wasn't drinking at all because you really couldn't in my job. So I was stone sober, and I had some of the Neville brothers in my studio. I was recording Ivan Neville, actually, his CD. And Ivan Neville, if you don't know who Ivan Neville is, he's got a band called Dumpster Funk. But he was the B3 and clav player for Keith Richards' Expensive Winos. Keith Richards' side band. So we became good friends with him. We're recording him, and when I was asked to go to Keith Richards' house, which is in Weston, Connecticut, the head of the record label asked me to go, and I said no, because again, you meet so many famous people. Keith Richards wasn't my guitar god. You know what I mean? I love the Stones. I'm a major Stones fan. Stones and Beatles. But it wasn't my go-to. It was just as easy for me to say, no, I don't want to go all the way up there. And so I said no. And then my wife calls me up, and she's out to here with my son, pregnant, and she goes, "You're going." Now she was, she was very high up in the record label as well. So she was like, "You're going." I'm like, "I'm not going. I got too many people in the studio. Like I have other projects. I can't."
Plus, it's like a good hour and a half to get up there from.
It was 45 minutes from
that long? Okay,
from Mount
no.
Kisco. Yeah. It wasn't from the city. My studio's in Mount Kisco. So, of course, I stood my ground. So I went with her, and I went. So I didn't stand my ground. Anyway, so Scott picks me up, and it was Scott, the head of the record label, Scott McCracken, who also was the manager of right now of the LA Vampires. Johnny Depp's band.
Yes,
Yeah, so he's the manager.
Hollywood Vampires. Yeah,
Hollywood Vampires.
Yeah.
So anyway, he's my son's godfather, actually. But
No kidding.
he so great guy, great people. His father, another big story. I got many stories, but so he picks me up with Ivan Neville, him, and the editor of Musician Magazine. And I jump in the car, and we're all driving up to Keith Richards' house. I've got nothing with me. He's like, got everything. He's got everything there. So we drive up there and pull up this big driveway, and there's Keith in a bathrobe, with his bracelets on and things. And 3 of his golden retrievers come out. And I'm like, oh, it's the normal guy. Deep English robe, but packs me in the back. Come on in. Good to meet you. 2 minutes of being in the house. He says, would you like some coffee? Sure. I said, well, you have to make it yourself. I don't know where Patty keeps all the stuff. I'm not in a guy's house 5 minutes. I'm rummaging through his drawers. Where do you keep your coffee filters? So it was pretty, it was a pretty seamless.
It's wonderful that it was
thing.
like that experience. There was no stress or anxiety.
No, it was great. And we spent, we went back and forth for the week, and it was just great hanging out there, staying there, and recording him in his basement. And he gave me lectured me about childbirth because my wife was pregnant at the time. And she was like, it was her idol, and she didn't go because she was pregnant. So I got him on the phone to talk to her, and she was just over the moon about it. And he lectured her about childbirth.
That's wild.
So
this is during the Expensive Winos days with Waddy Wachtel and those guys. Was he recording that first album?
No, this was
Shouldn't
after
Take It So Hard.
This was after the first album. Yeah.
Okay.
They were just doing. They had just done Conan show, and they were in the midst of all that. So yeah.
Because he had a book that came out that I'd read his book.
Yeah, I have it.
Wonderful book. Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't realize what a tough guy he was. He growing up.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and he's got stories. I mean, it's the stories he told me. I can't remember them all, but he likes to talk.
Well, what's interesting? The relationship that he had with Mick, I thought was interesting because he's always say it was a marriage made in hell, and that they needed each other, but yet at the times they fought, and there were times that Keith had an issue with Mick, especially when Mick was going to do that CBS deal, and he was going to go off and be the next Michael Jackson.
Well, I mean, we didn't actually talk about that, but the aura I got from Keith and Mick is they were like brothers, and they lived like brothers. They loved each other. They hated each other.
Brothers fight. Yeah.
And it's like bring it back to the local level of bands. Bands are like they're like married. You have a marriage with one person, or you have a boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever you have. A relationship with one person, that's difficult. But being in a band is having a relationship with 4 or 5 people. It's difficult. It's not easy to have a relationship. So being in the Stones,
especially when the band members are alpha males, right? And there's a lot of money at stake.
Yeah.
A lot of bands are coming back today. Like some of these 70s and 80s bands are either reforming or they're still together, but yet they'll tour. Then you'll come to learn that there's not one original member.
Right.
In the band.
Yeah. Because the band becomes a franchise now.
Right.
So now
like Skynyrd. Great example.
Right.
I love Leonard Skinner. I think that they to me are still worth going to see. They bring in younger generations. Everybody wants to hear the hits, but then they like the deep cuts too.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Yeah, I mean, they always find musicians that fit the mold.
Ricky Medlock. I think
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
still there. He was there in the early days. I think he was an original member, but people obviously challenged me on that and say he wasn't. But he
Uh,
played on some of the early stuff. He
y
played. He was a drummer.
yeah, but I don't think he was an original member. I think he was I call them the original hangouts, there's the members of the band and then there's the outskirts of people that hung out with the band. You know what I mean? The people that, Tex
He
or
recorded. He recorded with them in the early days. But you're right. He did Blackfoot, so he took off
yeah,
and Artemis Pyle. I know Bob Burns came in, and then
yeah, yeah.
Artemis Pyle.
Artemis Pyle, yeah.
So let's talk about some of the music that you listened to when you were growing up. Let's go back to the '70s when you were a kid. What were you listening to?
You know what? My parents had 9 kids. They were young. So they were young. They listened to cool music ever since I was, born in the 60s. So we listened to everything from 50s music, the doo-wop shit to Beatles and Stones, all the way through the psychedelic stuff, all the way through the 70s. When it got to the 70s, we were growing up and now we're starting to form our garage bands and we started listening to Black Sabbath and
Sure.
AC/DC came along but we were also very much into the Eagles and the Stones and the Beatles. So we had a big mix.
So it was diverse.
Yeah,
So there was
I will say as people, I'm a lead guitar player in a band right now, but I am really a bass player. I toured as a bass player. I've always been a bass player. I think like a bass player. So Motown was my go-to.
which is
Honestly,
fun if you're a bass player. Motown is fun to play.
yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of stuff in there.
It's a lot of stuff to learn too.
Sure.
If you really want to learn how to play that type, a good funky bass, listen to Motown.
So did you actually tour? So when you were younger, you toured as a bass player?
No, I didn't tour as a bass player till the 2000s.
Oh, okay.
I played, but
Right.
I didn't actually until I played with the Osmonds. I didn't do the
Oh,
I did
the Osmonds.
the
Interesting.
bass. Yeah.
Can you tell us how that started? The Osmonds.
Well, it was Nathan Osmond. We were at the Strawberry Festival with Donnie Marie and Nathan and all a bunch of different people were there, but I think Donnie Marie went to Vegas and after the Strawberry Festival, Nathan asked me to go on. Nathan Osmond is Alan Osmond's son. He's like the big entertainment factor there. They're all very talented, but so he asked me to do the cruise lines. He asked me to be his music director for the cruises. So we started doing cruises. And my job was to put bands together and take the music and get the tracks and help them with the video and sync everything up and then get the band together. So sometimes I play lead guitar on the ship. Sometimes I play bass, but I started off as the bass player. Yeah, it was a cool thing.
So you've done some cruises then.
Oh yeah.
How was that to work? How do you explain those?
Um, I love the cruises. I love the cruises because as the headlining act, you get flown in, you play a show, and then you hang out in a cruise for 3 or 4 days. And then you get off and go on another cruise, and then you play one 50-minute show, maybe 2 50-minute shows, and then you just hang out in the cruise. You're not playing music all day long
Sure.
and sitting in the crew quarters. They treat you like a passenger, but you're in you're a headlining act, so everybody recognizes you. So people buy you drinks, and it's just it's a really cool, ego booster, I would say.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of talent on those cruise ships. There's no doubt.
Yeah, but you go on a cruise ship and you go to like the pool and it's the same band plays like every hour they come up and play and they do it every day. They're on the cruise ship for like 6 months.
Right.
This is a situation where we're the headlining act, so they would fly us in to like Jamaica and or Galveston, and we wait for the cruise ship to come in. We jump on and they put us up in a hotel, whatever, and give us nice rooms. They treat us like gold. We play a show in the theater, and then we're done. I mean, it was so simply.
It was a good money.
Oh, it was good money. Yeah, it was good money, and it was good. It was a good learning experience too. As a sound person, cruise ships are totally different as far as sound. What they're not used to having the big rock shows. Big rock shows are dumbed down, sound wise.
Sometimes you hear about things like a Leonard Skinner cruise or a Kiss cruise where there'll be multiple bands, but then these bands will headline.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming that there's a lot of gear and they're on the main deck and it's like an actual concert.
Yeah. Well, that's a different story though, because those cruises are put together for these bands, so they're bringing in their gear.
A Kid Rock will have a sold out Cruise.
Right. So he'll have his whole company come in and they'll bring the gear on there and they'll have it all set up. When you're doing what we did, we went from cruise ship to cruise ship. So we'd fly into like St. Thomas, get on a cruise, and then end up in Fort Lauderdale and get on another cruise and end up in either I don't know Jamaica or Galveston, Texas, and we're going from place to place. So it's not like we can bring truckloads of gear and move it from ship to ship. So you use what you have on a ship. Now on the ships they have good gear. I mean, I played through a Fender Twin, which was difficult because Fender Twin you really got to turn it up to get a really good sound, to get the full tube sound out of the Fender Twin reverb, and you can't do that on the stage in the cruise ship.
That's a loud amp,
It's
correct?
a loud amp. So I ended up going with a modeler. I use an XL Stomp now to model so I can get as close to that sound as possible, but bring the level down so it can be controlled by the board because it's not you don't want to be too loud in a room.
Hey, I just thought of something. As a sound guy, do you get frustrated sometimes when you'll go see a concert, whether it be local or a big act, and the sound is off? For an example, I just recently saw a concert, and I thought the sound was horrible because the night before I saw a different concert and the sound was amazing.
I recently, I play in another band too. I play a band called Nobody's Fool.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
Yeah,
I
and
love those guys.
love Nobody's
Dan is
Fool.
fantastic.
Yeah, Dan's great. The whole band's great. And Sean, my drummer, also plays in the band. So it's good because whenever Cabana Dogs are playing, Nobody's Fool's not playing. Whenever Nobody's Fool's playing, I can't put Cabana Dogs. It's an easy thing. There's no competition,
And what's your role in Cabana Dogs? I mean, I'm sorry, Nobody's Fool.
lead guitar.
Okay.
But I play second. I call myself second guitar because it's Dan's band.
Right.
He's the singer. He plays a lot
He's
of
doing his Ted Nugent, all that.
yes, and he does a really, really
Oh
good.
yeah, he's great.
So we played Thunder by the Bay down in at Robarts
Sure.
this year.
Annual
And
event, yeah.
and a lot of fun. We had a good sound. Watching the bands after us, I've noticed that the sound was horrible. Whoever was running the sound, with all due respect, had no clue what to do with those bass bins. The bass was overrunning everything. You couldn't hear anything. They had no control.
But it wasn't like that for you.
No, it wasn't. What happens is because we were earlier on, so as when you do big sound like that, and I've done big sound like that for a long time. When you do big sound like that, the first band you don't crank up all the bass bins. You don't crank up all the meat. You know what I mean? You get them to sound good, but you're still working.
You're
out
the
your
warm up
sound.
band, so
Yeah.
you're warming up the system.
So everybody was the warm up band till Grand Funk came on, But so all the bands, all local bands that they hire, and they hire good bands, hopefully. But whoever's running the sound, when they tried to beef up, I think the Lost Boys played after us, and I know the guys, and they're a good band,
Another great band, yeah.
but they sounded like shit, and it wasn't their fault. Whoever was running the sound took me everything to not go behind the board and say, hey, guys, you got to do this.
Sure.
Who wants to hear that? When I'm running something, I don't want someone to come up to me and tell
course.
me what to do. So I usually try to stay out of it until someone asks me. It's the best way to do it. Keep good blood.
But
that
did
way.
people notice? Did people actually, say, hey, there's something going on here?
Well, you know what? You know crowds, you play. Half the people out there have no idea what they're listening to. They're just, they know if they can understand the words you're singing, they're like, oh, I love them. I love them. I know the words.
Yeah.
You know?
They don't have quite the ear that you have.
So if you're playing a show and you guys sound horrible. We sound horrible tonight. Don't know what it is. They don't think so.
Right.
Well,
Especially when a few drinks are involved.
right. A few drinks and they're having a good time. So most people equate having a good time with the band that they saw that night. That's why they will go see the band again. So sound wise, it's more us sound guys, musicians that'll go to a club and go, oh God, they sound like shit. I really want to go up and tell them, but then they may get pissed if I tell them. It's
I actually enjoy it when somebody comes up to me like yourself who has experience and says, hey, you got to turn the vocals up or you got to bring the guitar down.
Right.
I actually enjoy that. I'm like, thank you.
Yeah. Well, I agree. I do the same. I love when we do our own sound.
So do we.
So I fully expect someone to say, hey, I can't hear the drummer's vocal. Or the girl, it's usually the girl vocal's too loud because when she tests her monitor, she'll go, hey.
Right.
With all the respect, she's a wonderful singer.
Yeah.
But then when she
She
sings,
doesn't project it
she-
during rehearsal.
right. And then my drummer is the opposite. When he sings, I go, hey, okay, I got the levels good. But then when he sings low, and then he starts coming in, so I have to bring him up. So it's just
Are you wireless so you can actually walk out front and hear front of house?
I have a wireless that I use only to do a sound check, but I don't like the sound I get with a wireless. I lose a lot of tone, so I usually plug myself back in when we actually play. Yeah. So the wireless is just so I can go out there and listen to get a level.
And are you guys using inner ears or are you all using the wedge monitors?
We're using wedges. Julia sometimes uses the in ear. I sometimes use an in ear, but with his hair it's difficult because you gotta, you know. So it's and local clubs. It just
I learned over the years that taking your stage volume as low as possible makes for a better product out front.
to an extent, I would say, there's certain things that as a guitar player, a large part of our show is the guitar playing. Okay, harmonies and guitar, and of course, Matt, the drummer is a whole nother different story, other part of our show. But to get a good tone out of my guitar without sounding plastic, when you get too low, it sounds very compressed and very at this level, almost like vocals here and music back here. And from my point of view, and my point of view is not always right, but uh, my point of view, you've got guitars, drums, bass, and vocals, and they're all instruments. And they have to be mixed as instruments, not music and vocals. Music back here and vocals up here means you're playing a lounge, for the old people. And they want to hear the music and they don't really care about a guitar solo or a drum solo or whatever. They all want to hear is the words. That's my view. So I like to have the music as you would hear on a CD or a radio, when you hear the music and you hear the vocals. And one thing people don't understand about vocals, when you hear the vocals up front, they're not necessarily louder. They're more they're compressed and they're at a frequency range where nothing is interfering with it.
Good
So
point.
you've got the bass right here, the kick drum right here, and the vocals right here in the middle. Sometimes the instruments are physically louder, if that's a way to put it, but the vocal is within a frequency range that the other frequencies have been taken out of the other instruments, so you can hear that vocal clearer.
Is it usually above too? It'll be above the bass and above the middle.
It's if the vocals above, it's level or slightly above, I would say decibel wise, but your ear is hearing frequencies differently. Like bass, you know how you can hear the boom of a bass? You can feel it more than hear it sometimes. It's big. There's a lot of sound there, but still not interfering with the vocal, because the vocals are somewhere between 2 or 300 to 2K. You got the bulk of your vocals in that frequency range. The bottom bass is down here in this frequency range. So even if they're both really loud, you'll hear them both clear. And the big mistake people make, they just use faders and go, well, vocals got to be here. The vocals, put the vocals up. Guitars are too loud, put the vocals down.
Right. You're right. That's a
and
big mistake.
And that's what ends up happening.
A lot of bands do that, unfortunately.
You know what? I had this conversation with someone yesterday. I'm not going to name the name of the club, but I went in to talk about the environment and how it can make it more sound worthy, without doing a lot of spending a lot of money, and trying to explain the same thing to him. With all the respect to other musicians, I told them my point of view is 95% of the musicians out there, great musicians, many of them can just blow me away on guitar, but sound-wise, they don't know sound. They know their sound.
Sure.
So many friends of mine who were just masterful guitar players would come in with their big amps and turn them up and get their sound and not care about that's their sound. And when you tell them, well, you got to turn your stage volume down so I can get everybody, I got to get my sound. And they're guitar players that could probably wipe me up as far as technique and everything else. But they're not thinking the overall sound.
You've done a wonderful job with Dan Graff, though, because you dialed him in because he's a loud guy and he's a powerful player. But you dialed him in nicely because now he doesn't seem to be over. When I used to go see the guys,
Well,
wow, that guitar is loud.
I would,
But it seems like since you joined, the volume has gotten to a point where it's
Maybe, but I'm not sure if it's me dialing him in. Maybe he's dialing himself in. We talk a lot about sound, and so maybe he's more conscious of it.
You know what's frustrating to me is when you're dialed in and you go into a venue, and I'm not going to name the name of the venue, but this happened to me, where the management would come up and say, "You're too loud. Turn it down," several times, and we keep turning it down, but yet it's not good enough.
Do
for
they
them.
have their own PA system in there?
No.
Okay.
So the point
I'm not
is
narrowing it down in my
Yeah,
head. What club is? 'Cause I
but
probably
what's frustrating for us because we have our own gear and we do a wonderful job with our sound, at least we're told we are, and we always make adjustments as needed.
right. Yeah, you
But
have
if the
to.
general manager comes up and says, "Look, people are complaining," maybe there's one couple that's complaining out of 100 couples.
The couple that's sitting right in front
Right.
of the speakers.
So he or she will then come to us and say, "Do this," and they always come up in the middle. I'm playing, and they come to me and try to talk to me. I'm like, "I can't really talk to you right now because I'm in the middle of a song."
And they expect you to turn it down right now.
So,
You're like, well, I'm playing right now. I
It's
can't
never
turn it
good
down."
enough.
Yeah.
And so they'll be like, they'll complain, "Oh, you're too loud, too loud." Like, too loud compared to what? And just because that one person over there said we were loud, where 99 other people were dancing and jumping up and down and having a great time.
Yeah.
So that's what frustrates me when that happens in certain venues.
I totally agree with you. It's difficult. There's one club down on Siesta. We won't play anymore, and we were one of the top bands there, and so they say. We always packed the place. We always made good money there, and they have a decibel meter, and across the street they complain. I can narrow it down, and you'll know who I'm talking about eventually. But um, the guy who owns it, nice guy, but knows nothing about music, has his friend, this old guy, making sure that everybody's keeping below the dB meter, and the managers, nobody knows music. They're just managers of a bar, and they're going by a meter. And I'm trying to explain to them, as someone who went to Berkeley, took acoustic courses, math courses, and all this crap. Okay, not that I'm a the world acoustician, they call them, but I know enough to say, hey, take the dB meter and go across the street. And that's where you want to read your level, because if it's good there, then it's going to be good at their house, which is another, double the distance. And if you every time you double the distance, you go down 6 dB. So if you're going to use a dB meter and stand in front of me like this, I'm going to be loud. If I'm talking, I'm going to be loud. They don't understand that.
But who sets that number? Is it the city, the police? Who sets the number for what is considered loud on a dB
The
meter?
city does.
So, like, for example, Main Street, I play a certain bar there that's open late, and we play there regularly. And they used to have complaints. I think they squashed them. I don't know how they figured it out. But the people that were building these condos and the people that were living in these condos were complaining about the noise. And my first reaction is, well, why would you move downtown to a vibrant city if you're going to have a problem with noise?
Because older people with a lot of money, they move to a place and they say, wait a minute, I moved here with a lot of money. You better change things. And they get together with the other people who moved here with a lot of money or have been here, and they're older and they just don't really care for the music. It's not piano jazz, so it's not their thing. A level head would say, okay, well, I have to have a little bit of balance here, because the younger people having music downtown, it's bringing business downtown.
Sure.
But they don't think that way. So what are you going to do? You're not going to change their thought process. But we recently played downtown, probably across the street from the club you're talking about. And again, not mentioning outside, and they want you to be really low. And he was terrified. Well, you look at me, I go in, I'm like, yeah, we're cool. And I joke around with everybody. So the first thing they say to me is, what kind of music? I'm like, well, we go right from our rap set. We do a couple of death metal tunes, then we'll do a Barry Manilow tune, and we got it all set. And they go, I'm like, don't worry about it. So, but I do sound. So I get my little iPad and I make sure I balance the sound.
Sure.
And I had it under what they wanted, and we killed it, because I know sound. And if you have it down here and you still sound like you have it up here, you're doing what you're supposed to do. And most people don't understand. I had this conversation yesterday with this club owner. Bands come in, they got all their gear, and I didn't mention names because I'm friends with. I don't think I have any enemies. I hope I don't. We'll see. If I walk outside and you shoot me in the head, then I have one enemy, but I don't think I have an enemy. So, some of my friends have big full PAs, okay, and one couple I'm thinking of, and after we talk, I'll tell you who they are because they're really close friends of mine. They have big PA, and when you have all that money invested in equipment, you want to use it. So everything's mic'd, everything is set, and they got their sound, and they got to use it. They got to use the bass bins. They got to use this, and they sound like shit. They're overpowering everything. They don't know. They don't take into consideration where they are.
The floors, the ceilings, the
The
walls,
walls, exactly.
right? And there's no bodies in there to absorb it.
Right. So, um, to try to educate the club owners, I do that sometimes when I become friends with them because I don't want to be Mr. Know-it-all. But I tell them, look, you have to know a little bit about sound. And you don't have to be a scientist to understand that these big bass bins, they look scarier than they are if you know how to use them. If you don't know how to use them, then it's going to ruin the sound. So people come in and just want to plug everything in and get their sound. It's always going to be too loud. Everybody has to play to the room.
Well, I've learned that less is sometimes more.
Yeah.
So sometimes instead of bringing 2 subs, I'll just bring the 1 sub. We
Yeah.
don't need the 2 subs.
I always bring a 1 sub. I rarely use 2 subs now. I just put it in the middle or I put it inside because the bass frequency can fill up the room anyway. So even if I play bigger places, 1 sub. When I played the place up in Ellington, 1 sub. It fills the whole room. The sound's good. But what happens is the way you're supposed to do sound, in my mind, have everybody play. Let me hear your stage sound, no PA. Let's see what you got. Okay, drums are going to be louder, which is expected. You want the drums to be just a little bit louder live. You don't want the bass and guitar amps to blow away the drums with nothing mic'd yet. The drums should be just a hair louder than the bass and the drum and the guitar on stage. And you'll still have a good volume with bass and guitar. Then you have your mics, and then you go out there and say, okay, I have mics and everything, but I'm not going to bring that mic up because I don't need that mic.
Sure.
I'm going to bring that up just a hair. I'm going to send the kick drum through the bass bin, but I don't need the high end because I can hear it. You know what I mean? So you're using the sound on stage with the sound of the PA. And that's how you get your room sound, and you can get a really good sound. You can't be any lower than what you sound like with no PA, right?
Right.
If you play drums and guitar and bass and you have a stage volume, you can't be any lower than that. So you got to just use that as your bass sound and then just enhance it from there.
One of my favorite places to play is the Twisted Fork in Port Charlotte.
Yeah.
And they have a sound,
They have a sound man.
sound person there, and they have incredible equipment because the owners are musicians.
Yeah.
And so they understand it, they get it. So they went out and bought really good gear, and they bring in some big acts. It's a large
Right.
stage, and we sound fantastic there. And we even record ourselves through the board, and we record ourselves through the Zoom camera stuff, the VZ or whatever it's called,
Yeah.
and it comes out fantastic.
PZ.
It's a little camera, and it's like it says Zoom V something.
Yeah,
It's,
I know.
It's
which
shaped
one.
funny.
Yeah.
And it's one of the most incredible recording devices I've ever seen
Yeah.
and I've heard. And it sounds fantastic when you put your headphones on and you play it back and you can hear
Because
yourself.
it probably recorded stereo.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Another place is when we do the Paragon Seafood Festivals. That's a great stage with
Well,
great
because
sound.
they bring sound.
There's a woman there, I think her name is Ray, and she is one of the best sound people I've ever worked with
Yeah.
because she's mixing on the fly. She sets you up, but then she'll sit there during the entire 90-minute performance and she's working it.
Yeah.
She doesn't just leave her tablet and go get a beer.
Right.
Because she'll know when I come in, it's my turn to sing, and there's a certain Billy Idol song that requires a little bit of an effect on the. She
Right.
knows to put that on.
Yeah.
And then all of a
Now,
sudden I
do
hear
you-
myself, and I'm like, wow.
Do you give them a list of your songs and
Yes.
say this is what we want in our songs?
Yeah. Well, I do, but not everybody follows it. I noticed. I mean,
Yeah.
I'll give them a copy of the set list, and maybe I'll check off some things.
Yeah.
But I noticed they don't really look at it.
Yeah. That's why I'm asking, because a lot of sound people don't. They're just like, I've been doing this forever. You're just a local band, whatever. That's how they think. So what I do is, I give them a general. This is how our band works, because we don't know. Again, we're not a female or a male led band. We're just a band of everybody sings. And if you had to really look at it, my drummer sings more songs than the rest of us, only because he knows the words. That's just the way it is. So I tell them, all of our mics are at the same level. All of our mics the same level. We control our volume. If I'm singing a harmony, I'm going to go back here. If I'm singing lead, I'm going to try to jump on the mic a little bit closer. I should more, but I'm playing guitar, so I don't. But everybody says, get closer. But it's the way it is. When Julia's singing a harmony, she'll sing back here. When she's singing a lead, she'll come up. The drummer We all should do the same thing. That's how we control our volume.
True. Yeah.
And if someone's out there and they like when I do my own sound, I make sure my compression is set. And I don't have a lot of time between gigs because we show up and play. So a little bit here, a little bit there, a little by little, my vocals get better and better. I'm always working at it. I'm always changing it, but I'm always working at it. So our volumes are the same. So when we get a bigger place and a sound man comes into play, they want a set list. I'm like, these are our songs. I guarantee we're not going to play them in order. However, everything's pretty much the same. There's no special major effect that goes here or major effect that goes there because we're a different type of band. We take songs and we mash them up, and we take a piece of this song, and we may surprise them and go back to this song again. So it's more of this is our general sound. You know what I mean? It makes it easier for us. And again, being the only guitar player in the band as well, I don't have to worry about, all right, I'm doing a solo here, so boost me up or boost me down. I just boost myself. And I actually, from Dan Graff, I learned that. Because Dan is, I think, the king of understanding guitar.
Can I tell
electronics.
you, I think that he's got the best guitar tone of anybody in this area.
He's got a great
I love
tone.
his tone.
Yeah. He really has. I as I've been doing this all my life, and I still learn from him when he says, well, try this, because he's like a guitar scientist. He's got everything. He's always working on things and changing things in his amp. And so it's a good learning experience for me.
He also has a great voice too.
Yeah, he pulls it off. He pulls it off. Yeah, pulls it off really well.
Well, if anybody is interested in coming to see a Cabana Dog show, how would they find out? How would they learn about you and your band?
Cabana Dogs Music. We just took our website down. We're going to put it back up. Every time we change a member, we do that. And we just recently got Julia, our last singer.
Julie Brown, for those listening, Julie Brown used to be the lead singer of Jacked Up.
Right.
She was with us for a couple of years.
Yeah. She
left the band, and then she hooked up with you guys.
Right.
And she's happy, and she's doing great. She sounds fantastic.
Yeah,
it's a great fit.
She's doing a good job. There's a learning curve for her, because she has Julia Brown, her own thing too.
Sure.
And when she does that, she's the lead singer. It's her band.
And she's improved a lot over the years. I mean, she gets better and better.
Yeah. So, but when she plays with us, it's more of a band situation, and I think it's a learning experience. But it's a good learning experience for her. You know what I mean? It's understanding the mix more.
But I think she's also learning a lot from a guy like you. I mean, I think she's in a great scenario to learn about tone and volume. And,
I hope so.
And harmonize.
So. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah. Harmonizing is the key. In my mind, anyway. And my band will tell you, yeah, I'm a pain in the ass over it. But harmonies, sing a harmony. There's no harmony on the record. I don't care. Sing a harmony there anyway.
Do you sometimes just practice vocals or just practice harmonies?
Majority of our rehearsals are with acoustic, and we go over original songs that we may do from time to time, and parts of songs. Because you know what, you go to rehearsal. I've been in bands where you go to the rehearsal, and whoever's the leader of the band says, okay, we're doing this song. You go it, you play it, and it doesn't come out right, and they go, all right, you didn't learn it. Go home and learn it. We'll play it next week. I don't do that. I'm like, well, you didn't play it right. Let me show you how it goes. Let's work on it. You know what I mean? Because it's not like we're not in high school saying, okay, you do your homework and come back. It's not a contest. I want you to sound good. I want you to sound stellar. Because if you sound stellar, I will sound stellar, and we will sound stellar. So we help each other. We stop. Okay, what harmony are you singing there? There's no harmony there. All right, let's make one then, and we work it out.
And that's what makes the band interesting for the public to see. Maybe doing a little different spin on some things, right?
Absolutely.
Adding a harmony where there really isn't one.
Yeah.
Or having a female sing a male song or a male sing a female
Absolutely.
song.
Well, we'll do what I used to sing a Tom Petty song. I forgot the name of it. And let Julia sing the first two verses. Then I sing the second verse. Then we sing harmony in the third verse, fourth verse. It just works that way. We do a few Aerosmith tunes where Sean will sing, and then we'll jump in every other line with it, just to do it, because it's fun. And we're not out there to be Aerosmith. We're out there to be us.
Sure. Having
fun doing a song that we love.
Your spin on it.
Right.
And that's what truly makes you a nice cover band.
And it makes the audience want to sing along too, because we're singing along with ourselves. We're not saying, okay, now she's singing the song, we're going to sit here and it's her song now, or now this is his song. We don't do that. Like, it's her song, well, we're going to sing with her. It's his song, we're singing it with her. And that's what we do. So when it says lead song, lead vocal on a song, lead song, but we're all singing the song.
So you have so many songs in your repertoire, you can mix it up every night, right? Like you can play a different set all the time.
Yes, we can. But
And-
we generally, there are certain songs we just, when we're doing one, we know we're going to go into the other because it just fits like a glove and we love doing it. And it never gets old, for us anyway. You know how you see some bands, and I was over at Stottlemeyer's with some friends and another band, great band. There's some people who critique other people, and they were like, "Well, Twinkle's not playing the same set list," and I'm like, "Well, good, because they're really getting it good, and that's what people want. They want to come and see." Every once in a while she'll just down and say, "Hey, I wrote the song," and do a song, But a lot of their set list is the same.
30 Days in the Hole seems to be their favorite opening
yeah,
song.
they have certain things they do. That's good. People like that. People like a little bit of stability,
I agree.
and they also like some surprise too. It's funny. The irony is when you have good stability in stuff that you do, every time you throw something different in, whoa, that's so cool. They changed. They shocked us. So you have both factors right there.
What is your philosophy when someone wants to hear a song like Sweet Home Alabama and they'll come up and they'll maybe even put a large bill in the tip jar? What's your philosophy on that?
Play it.
No matter what.
We play it anyway. We try to play the songs that people hear all the time in our first set because people it warms them up. It gets them used to us. Oh yeah, okay, cool, all right, like that. A couple of songs they don't know, but most songs they absolutely know in the first set. This way, there's no like because I very rarely, but there's always a few in the crowd that go, "Oh, I want to see something new," or moving on. Move on. I don't care. Now we're here to entertain you. We're not
Right.
here to be the cutting edge. What about this one? We do that. We'll do a Stevie Wonder tune and make it sound like a rock tune, funk tune, and still sound like Stevie Wonder. You know what I mean? So we're not worried about that. If we play Sweet Home Alabama, we play it. We love it.
Yeah. We had to play that recently.
Yeah.
We did Freebird recently too. We had a second guitar player on stage with us and we surprised people because, everybody says Freebird and we never do it. We're like, yeah, whatever. So finally we tricked everybody and we had a guitar player that could play slide.
Yeah.
So we actually went ahead and we did Freebird and, it was kind of like a little rough, but it was fun.
Yeah.
It was fun. I forgot how fun that song was, to be honest with you. Because especially the ending, down, 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 down.
Yeah.
And the place went nuts.
Yeah. We
So
did the
it-
same.
it
We
worked.
just did the same thing a few weeks ago. Someone said, "Freebird, $100." Of course, we're gonna play it. I generally have a hard time sometimes because I'm the only guitar player.
There's no piano in your band, right? So
No, just guitar,
it helps
bass, and
to have a
drums.
piano in that song.
And sometimes my son will come up and play percussion, which some people love. I have to keep him reined in, but he's a lot of fun. And Julia, or what before Julia, it was Kathy playing tambourine. I mean, it fits. The harmonies fill in the gap. But playing Freebird, I'm usually like, oh God, all right, I have to think about playing this. But you know what? Sometimes you just do it. So you take the slide out, you play it, and then you put it down and you play the rest of it, and you don't get it perfect. And
Right.
But
people get the idea.
every once in a while,
and
people
the vibe is there.
someone paid us $100 to play bang on the drum all day. I don't want to work. I want to bang on the drum. And we played it. We went to the parking lot, learned it, came back, did it half-assed. Now it's part of our set list,
So I go to the open mic night at a Twisted Fork, and I'm a bass player, so I'll get up and I'll play with people.
I didn't
And
know
it
they
ca-
had an open mic
Yeah,
there.
it's the last Tuesday of the month. So this month it'll be the 30th of July, I believe, right? So I've had good experiences where I'd get up there and I'd play a lot of blues stuff and I could play it. But occasionally somebody would throw out a song that I had no clue what the song was.
Right.
And then there was another instance where I knew the song, but the singer was so awful and the drummer was so awful that I got embarrassed. And I was like, I couldn't wait for it to end. And I was like, I was up there and I learned my lesson. I'm like, don't go blind. Sometimes it's like, I'm not that good of a musician that I can wing it. And I was up there and I was like, oh God, this is embarrassing as hell. I got to get out of here.
Just give me the key. Where's the root note? It happens, man. But we'll take, people put money in the tip jar and can I up and sing a song? And I'm always like, sure. I don't care if they can sing or not. Because if they can't sing, it's entertainment too.
We've had it both ways. We've had people come up to a club and get on stage and they were fantastic. I mean, fantastic.
Yeah.
We have other people like we would just end it after one verse because they were like, it was okay. All right, here you go.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, we had someone come up last week and sing Bobby McGee. And I know Julie wasn't happy about that, but to me, it's fun. I'm like,
Right.
you did a good job. She paid $40 to come up and
she paid it.
and we were like, so what? And people know that they're not like, it doesn't reflect on our band. They don't say, oh, they're a horrible band because that person sounds horrible. No, they go, oh, someone from the audience just sang a song. How cool is that?
Well,
You know?
in closing here today, I can say that you're a highly entertaining band. And if you haven't seen Cabana Dogs, everybody should go out and see you guys. You're a lot of fun to see, and you're a great musician.
I appreciate it.
So thank you for coming on the show today, Jimmy. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
And
me.
we're going to put your schedule up so people can see it.
Awesome.
And we'll talk to you soon.